All right, guys, that's, yes, close to the edge. A little longer than expected. Sorry about that. We were just trying to queue up some of the callers here. And we also have another caller coming in. We're going to be hearing from Mr. Jose Sanchez, the director for El Barrio Boxing in New York City. He's also a veteran. And we're also going to be talking to the young lady who was the former wife of the POW, Staff Sergeant Altai. So with that said here, guys, thanks again for surfing into Unity America Radio, and you guys are awesome for tuning in tonight. This is Dino. We're out of Soundwaves in Union, New Jersey. Here is one of our special guests. Ma'am, can you please introduce yourself to us for the audience?
Yes, my name is Linda Racy.
Linda Racy, excellent. Linda Racy, this must be frustrating for dealing with what you're dealing with. I know your heart is felt about that, and I want to offer my utmost respect for you and what you're going through, and your family as well, and all the loved ones of the POW as well. I don't know too much facts about this, okay? So I thank you for contacting us, to letting us know what you know, and I ask you that you please let us know all the aspects that we need to know pertaining to this situation. Now, I really don't know what's going on here, so I'm asking you to please give us just a brief detail on, correct me if I'm saying his name wrong, Staff Sergeant Altai, how do I spell that?
His name is Staff Sergeant Ahmed Altai, and he's an Iraqi-American, and he was working for the airlines ever since he immigrated from London, England, where he went to school and came to Detroit, Michigan to settle in, to work for the airlines. And long story short, when 9/11 happened, all Middle Eastern airline workers were mandatorily laid off. So Ahmed was at a loss of what to do with his life. That's all he knew was avionics, and he was recruited by the military to be a translator and promised a job with a very, very promising future at the Department of Defense very shortly after his 2-year term as being a translator. So in a nutshell, he went to boot camp at age 40, which was very impressionable, and made it through boot camp, which was very hard for a 40-year-old man, but he was determined. He wanted a better life and wanted a future, and he was deployed to Iraq in October of 2005. He was over there not only as a translator, but for the ambassador for the Iraqi embassy. He had a very, very strong, respectful position. And what he'd do is he would translate for terrorist cells of people that were being brought in as suspected terrorists, and he would be translating to the U.S. Embassy of exactly what was going on. And he was a very, very crucial part of being able to break down some of these terrorist cells. He opted on October 23rd of 2006. He had an opportunity to leave the green zone during a holy month of Ramadan. He defied the army by taking a chance and leaving, wearing civilian clothes, thinking he could blend into the rest of the population, and he took off on a motorbike he had just bought with a friend inside the green zone to go visit his now wife, who was living in Iraq at the time. He snuck out of the green zone, I'm ashamed to say. He was kidnapped right outside her residence about 5 minutes after he pulled up in front of her residence to join her for a quick dinner and try to make it back to the green zone. He was kidnapped by some neighborhood thugs who didn't realize who he was at the time in the Karada district of Baghdad, Iraq. He was kidnapped off the street, thrown into the back of a Mercedes-Benz, never to be seen again until 5 months later after his kidnapping. He appeared on CNN, and they had a picture of him reading without audio moving, but he was reading under duress with probably machine guns pointed at his head, being ordered what to say. But you could tell through that CNN's video that he was beaten. He was then sold off.
So basically, this was captured on video. This was captured on video by CNN.
CNN actually found it through a terrorist website.
Do you have any links for us?
Called Free Prisoners of War. It's on Facebook.
Is there any other prisoners of war that you may know of that maybe, because we don't hear too much about them on the media?
There's only one other prisoner of war out of this last 10-year war, and his name is Bo Bergdahl, captured in Afghanistan. It's a whole different case.
Do you know how to spell his name, ma'am?
B-O-W-E, and it's Bergdahl, B-E-R-G-D-A-H-L. And he's very sought after as well.
B-E-R-G-D-E-H-L.
Correct.
Bergdahl. And his first name is Bo? B-O-W-E?
B-O-W-E. Mm-hmm. They have videos that emerged of Bo Bergdahl saying that he had to, in order for survival, turn into a quote-unquote Taliban type of informant and go to the other side for survival. But this is two separate cases. One is out of Afghanistan, and this one with my former husband, who was kidnapped, and it's been rumored that he was killed through the Associated Press in New York. We don't know what to believe at this point, whether there are children missing on the empty milk cartons. The only way that people survive is through faith and through hope.
I understand. Well, it has to be devastating on the families, especially.
It is hard to describe.
Really what's happening. I pulled it up here from POWs and MIAs recognized in Rupert by KMV-TV, September 18th, 2011, in Rupert, Idaho. Officials say there are approximately 18,000 POWs still missing from World War II and the Korean War and Vietnam Wars as well.
That's correct, yes.
That's a high number. I know a lot of there was
a
petition to get some of the Vietnam POWs out of there, and I guess our government gave up on them a little bit. I guess how far can you go?
Well, the older the cases go, the colder the cases become. I'll just tell you this real quickly. I'm very active on the Facebook page for Ahmed. I've gotten calls from people who are actually on the search missions for him, and they've called me and told me that the Army called off the search for Ahmed any longer because in their minds they deem him as leaving. They've put him on the lower list of priorities now, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been told by 3 separate individuals who were on the search teams who told me the Army has asked them this case is no longer a priority because he defied the laws.
So it was in other words turned over to the FBI, I presume?
Well, the Army at one point told me, word for word, quote unquote, that this is no longer an Army matter, Miss Racy. This is an FBI matter. Okay. And I was advocating for him, and I was very frustrated when I heard this.
What the FBI actually does overseas with cases like this. However, I want you to hold that thought for a second, please, Mrs. Racy.
Sure.
I just want to introduce Mr. Jose Sanchez, who's also a veteran. Mr. Jose Sanchez is the director for El Barrio Boxing. Mr. Jose Sanchez, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for having me.
I'm sure you've been listening on to the discussion for the past couple minutes here.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes.
Do you have any views or opinions about that, sir?
I'm not too familiar with it. I remember one incident that there was a soldier that walked off, I believe it was Afghanistan, and he left the post, abandoned his duty to go out and, socialize. Probably thought he was in New York or maybe Miami and got caught out there. A lot of that happens. A lot of these guys don't realize you're in a state of war. You're in a different country. These people are hostile. This is not an Xbox game you're playing. This is reality. Fortunately, some of them are not wrapped too tight, and they think it's okay. They can go out there and smile, and the people will welcome them and, sell them a beer. It doesn't happen that way.
It's actually quite easy to interact with the locals. There really are a lot of basically innocent people, but you still can't trust anyone in a situation like that when you're in a foreign country and you don't know nothing that's going on, and you have tribes fighting each other, and anything is possible because you got these people fighting each other. They might kidnap some guy, try to make it look like the other guy did it just to gain power over them and report it back to the U.S. forces as well. Things like that actually have happened quite often, not necessarily with someone stealing someone who was in the military, abducting a person or anything, but as well as reporters, as we've seen on the news before, civilians even that go to the country thinking, like you said, it was like Miami or New York City. No, it's not. You can't just go out there and do that.
You're actually not only putting yourself at risk, you're putting your whole unit at risk, the whole base.
Right.
Because now you been sequestered or you've been kidnapped, and now it takes a whole, let's say, 10 or 15 guys to go look for you.
Yeah, and not only that, you might have some, information that, you don't want to give up.
Absolutely.
And Mrs. Racy, we'll be back with you in a second, and I do thank you both for calling in tonight. Mr. Sanchez, can you just explain to us what exactly you do in New York City here with the boxing?
El Barrio Boxing Association. Basically, it was an idea, the concept to help urban youth fight obesity, fight drugs, gang violence, bulliness, work with their community, get young kids focused into a future. Most of them are into just gangs and guns and crime, and they're just leading the wrong path. So as veterans, we've gotten together and formed El Barrio Boxing Association to save some of these kids off the streets and put positive messages into them. We ask all of the members or the youth is to stay drug-free and good academic grades. We will work with them, train them, and get them into Golden Gloves, IBF tournaments, the Empire Games, which are every year in New York, different tournaments, the PAL tournaments, and so forth. And if they ever want to go for Olympic tryouts, we have the contact, as well as they want to go pro. We also have connections. We have a group of good coaches, which is Luis de Rivera, Hall of Famer, and he's also a New York State athletic judge.
Mr. Sanchez, can you please give us a little background about your military experience? You don't have to go anything that you don't feel comfortable about, but maybe you can just give us a quick bio about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I have 23 years of National Guard duty in New York. I was a first responder in 9/11. Served about 4 months down there doing helping recovery work and providing security, also reconnaissance and transports of heavy equipment into Ground Zero. I was deployed to Afghanistan 2006, where I served with the 102nd Infantry, but attached to the 10th Mountain Division as a truck commander in an infantry unit. And most of our missions were to seek and destroy or provide security for the OSI guys, which is Office of Special Investigations.
Thank you again for your service, Mr. Sanchez. I mean, that's really, really awesome. What was your rank while you were in, sir?
I was an E5.
Excellent. Sergeant. So you're Sergeant Sanchez. Now I can address you properly.
Sergeant Sanchez, yes, sir.
All right, Sergeant. And I met you actually at the Wounded Warrior project function.
Yes, we did. Actually, that was a great event with the New York Rangers. Awesome display of unity and support for the fire department as well as the police department and soldiers, wounded soldiers.
Concerning POWs there, Sergeant Sanchez, have you had any experience with maybe family members or friends or uncles or something like that maybe were in Vietnam that might not have made it home, or somebody that you know about?
I've had several friends that served in Vietnam that never made it back. One of the guys in my unit from the 102nd Infantry out of the Connecticut National Guards did not make it back. He was hit with a roadside IED and just took him apart. So, yeah, I can identify with the lady, someone that's missing in action or POW. Again, it's part of the war. It's part of war.
Miss Racy, do you plan on, is there anything that you're developing to try and get more out of this to find this missing soldier?
Ahmed is my best friend. We're no longer married. He's my best friend. I do feel that the way the Army views this frankly, this man defied what he knew he wasn't supposed to do. He left, got away with it a few times.
So do you think that might raise a flag, Miss Racy? This guy is an Iraqi American. He came from Iraq. Do you think that might have raised a flag?
It has. It keeps a lot of people's speculations wondering, what was he was enamored by his new wife, sneaking out and going to visit her. And ultimately...
And where is his wife currently?
They put her immediately into a safe house in the Green Zone right after the kidnapping, afraid that whoever the kidnappers, if she could identify him, would get retribution on her family.
So she's in Iraq right now?
No, she was in the safe house in the Green Zone for 4 months following his investigation, and then they brought her right to the state of Michigan with no questions asked at all, and she's here now, and our government's paying her taxes for her for everything, and I'm a little resentful towards that because she came here and has done nothing to advocate to get him back whatsoever. I've been doing everything, and I can't do it any longer.
Capacity to do that, though. I mean, I'm not going to judge her on that, and
right.
I think there's a few flags raised about that as well, and no, I don't appreciate someone if they were involved with this for his kidnapping or if it was against us, espionage or something like that. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion.
Right.
Just to say, there are flags being raised here. I mean, wow.
My father's brother got the Purple Medal back in the Korean War, and he was detonated a bomb to save his soldiers, and he was killed, okay? So my thought is that as much as you want to believe that a person did something, he put a lot of people at risk, Ahmed, by leaving. It was a bad decision, and people actually lost their lives searching for him. And I'm angry about that. He knew better not to, and he did. Regardless, who's really responsible? Is it our U.S. Army or is it the FBI? Who's really responsible here?
I'm not going to get into it too much, but I'm just going to say, hey, if there's a POW out there, I'd like to know more about this other guy here.
He was in country, and he was kidnapped. So he was snatched off the road. He was on the side of the road of a broken-down Humvee, from what I understand, and he was kidnapped.
Now, Sergeant Sanchez, I have a question for you.
Yes,
What do you think about this other soldier who was kidnapped off the side of the road?
There's questions to that because, first of all, when you're on patrol, you're not by yourself. You're actually with 3 other vehicles or a unit. You're never left alone on the side of the road, especially in a war zone. I know for a fact from my experiences that you're always traveling with 2 or 3 guys in a vehicle, and there's also 3 vehicles part of the convoy.
Yes, right.
So,
you always have a battle buddy, right? Yeah, you never go anywhere alone. Exactly.